Welcome to Coming to Our Senses. This is Tawny. Thank you for being here for the sixth and final episode of this first season. Last week, we talked about one of the challenges of being human in love. That sometimes intoxicating, sometimes chaotic experience of surrender, of being influenced, recognizing that to love is to risk. And many don't step into that place, not because they don't want to, but because of fear. We ended by exploring inner belonging, becoming our own source of love, of care, cultivating an inner anchor to come back to again and again, to feel replenished and available for connection. This week builds on that same thread of inner connection, outer connection, inner belonging, outer belonging. So I'd like to begin here with a simple question. What does emotional home feel like for you? What kind of place, what kind of connection makes you feel most like yourself? Maybe it's a tree, a piece of music, a film, or a quiet room. Maybe it's a loud room. Maybe it's a grandparent who's no longer with us. What environment reflects your internal world? Attunement is not fixed. It's more like tuning into the specific frequency we're currently inhabiting. We're sensing somebody else's so we can be in resonance, imagining instruments playing together in tune. And inner connection, inner attunement, inner intimacy begins with acceptance of what is, of right now. Not because we want to stay stuck or we want things to be as they are in this moment even, but because we can't change what we haven't met. The psychologist Carl Rogers once said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." It's hard to evolve and expand when parts of us are at war. And it's hard to connect with others if we haven't made space for what's happening inside of our own selves. That's why for many, therapy and contemplative practice can be so powerful. They offer a mirror, a pause, a way to untangle what's hidden in the drawers of our inner world and make sense of what needs care. So here we are in these short episodes, making sense, making space to sense, to pause, to notice. Another invitation into reflection is, when have you most felt like yourself? Not where, not when, but how. The inner when. What was the texture of that moment? Maybe it was subtle. Maybe it was profound. But that essence, that you-ness is the thread of belonging. When you were yourself beneath shame, beneath perfectionism, beneath performance, there you are, every reason to belong. And the more present we are, the more clearly we see that emotions are part of us, not all of us. That we're impacted by others and we impact them. Not in a way where we need to feel anxious or hypervigilant about it, but in an aware, relational way. A way that connects us to something larger than the ego. Sociologist Brené Brown has said, if you go looking for reasons you don't belong, you will find them. And grief therapist Frances Weller reminds us that instead of searching for belonging, we can become a place of belonging. We can stop wherever we are and we can open our arms. When I was writing this episode, I had music on, and a cover of This Must Be the Place came on. And a line caught me. Usually I have a tough time hearing lyrics, so it felt especially special that this happened. And the line was, "Home is where I want to be, but I guess I'm already there." And I cried because sometimes when something outside of us reflects the inside, we feel real. You know, in that moment, I felt seen. And another lyric was, "We drift in and out." And again, this makes me think of relationships, that this too is true of relationships, of intimacy, and even with ourselves. We all drift sometimes, we all forget. And some of us get good at doing it alone and just head down, kind of more living in reactivity or in emergency. Maybe we stay in relationships that pull us away from ourselves, or we stay disconnected from ourselves. And I know that I've done both. It seems most people throughout their lives have probably done both. I love solitude, and at times fawning, it's an absolutely wonderful coping mechanism. It's also kept me disconnected from my own sense of truth. And as I've prioritized presence, my own felt sense, I've noticed a quiet grief, a longing. That question of, can you see me? And sometimes the answer is no. Maybe the other person doesn't have capacity. Maybe I don't have capacity. Maybe it's just not the right time. And that doesn't make it a failure. We cannot always meet soul to soul, at least in this current iteration of reality and culture. And that's okay. You know, maybe we can't live with our hearts cracked open all the time. Or maybe that's not the goal. Maybe it's to be a little bit cracked where we can touch each other but not fall to the floor in pain with every interaction or with awe. So we need space. We need inner space as well to hold the awe, to hold the connection inside and out. And something I've been thinking about a lot lately in terms of belonging and community is consistency. Depending on your life stage, if you're parenting, if you're creating, if you're working, building, traveling, it's not always easy to find consistent connection. And yet there's something grounding about it. Existential philosophy says responsibility is freedom. To me, responsibility and consistency are synonymous here. Not performative consistency, but the daily showing up, the quiet presence, the tending, the curiosity about how we impact each other. Perhaps that's how we create belonging. Belonging in the human and more than human world. It's maybe through chopping wood and carrying water, all of these cliches that are just words until we actually embody it, and then we feel the felt difference of what it means to truly live in this way. And one more lyric from that 80s banger, I think it was the 80s. Love me till my heart stops, love me till I'm dead. To me, real home and real belonging is about being willing to talk about the full spectrum of being human. Death, joy, fear, grief, excitement, light, dark, light, disappointment, play, depression, love, the whole shebang. And that radical acceptance of it all is inner belonging. The quiet act of coming back again and again and listening. I want to close with a poem here by Jungian dreamworker Tokopa Turner called The Black Sheep Gospel. Give up your vows of silence which only serve to protect the old and the stale. Unwind your vigilance, soften your belly, open your jaw, and speak the truth you long to hear. Be the champion of your right to be here. Know that it is you who must first accept your rejected qualities, adopting them with the totality of your love and commitment. Aspire to let them never feel outside of love again. Venerate your too muchness with an ever-renewing vow to become increasingly weird and eccentric. Send out your signals of originality with frequency and constancy, honoring whatever small trickle of response you may get until it becomes a momentum. Notice your helpers and not your unbelievers. Remember that your offering needs no explanation. It is its own explanation. Go it alone until you are alone with others. Support each other without hesitation. Become a crack in the network that undermines the great towers of establishment. Make your life a wayfinding, proof that we can live outside the usual grooves. Brag about your escape. Send your missives into the network to be reproduced. Let your symbols be adopted and adapted and transmitted broadly into the new culture we're building together. Thank you so much for joining me for this first season of Coming to Our Senses. If this season resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you, or feel free to share it with somebody else who it might resonate with. I'll see you soon.